The first step to be taken as soon as you arrive to the cockpit is to make sure that everything is clean, make sure everything is organized, and you have absolutely no loose objects in the aircraft, which might turn into projectiles in the end. Then you have to make sure that, of course, you have whatever you need in terms of equipment and documents, which is kneeboard, logbook, in case it is really necessary to have it, maps, and also the checklists. These must be very handy and within reach, and must be right next to you. And whatever you don't need for the flight, which is bag, airplane documents, they can be placed in the back and must be, of course, secured to avoid any trouble during the flight. Yes, I do. As soon as I arrive to the airplane, first things first, I remove the pitot cover, I remove the gust lock. After it, I make sure that the luggage is fully secured. Then I go to the switches to make sure that whatever is needed first is needed in terms of lights. The beacon light is very important, it has to be on. All the rest, such as landing lights, navigation lights, they can be switched off for the beginning of the flight. Then I check the fuel manually, even though we have it shown on the fuel gauges, to make sure that the fuel required for the flight is there. And then obviously I check the landing gear, the flight controls, and obviously follow the checklist to make sure that there is absolutely no item skipped. If I would recommend a student, I would recommend him to never be in a rush no matter what. No matter if he is late, no matter if the weather is deteriorating, it's better to regret being down here than being up there. Of course, ground preparation is key, because the more ground preparation you will do, the less work you will have to do up in the air, and of course it will keep you ahead of the airplane, and of course be aware of what to expect throughout the course of the flight. Since they will be flying under visual flight rules in the beginning of their training, they will have to learn how to fly with a map in the first place, because it's the primary source of information and navigation for the student pilots. Obviously, throughout his training, he will learn how to fly with a GPS, because it will always be considered as a backup option, because it can fail compared to the map, which will always be there to assist you throughout any circumstances. In case the weather is unclear or uncertain en route, I will not let the student pilot depart, because here in Flying Academy, the safety of the student is our top priority, and as we say, every takeoff is an option, but every landing is mandatory. Usually when I'm approaching an airfield, there must be 3 criteria which have to be met no matter what: airspeed, altitude, and weather. If I'm approaching too fast, too high, and I'm losing ground contact or visual references, I initiate a go-around straight away no matter what. When I approach a familiar or unfamiliar airport, I always make sure that I'm ahead of the airplane, no matter what. This helps me a lot to decrease the workload during my flights, and of course, to not skip any critical item during the landing. Obviously, I prepare my charts to know which traffic pattern has to be followed and the length of the runway available. Then I get the weather information. If it's available, have an idea on the runway in use. If it's not possible, I check the windsock and I will choose the appropriate runway according to the direction of the wind. Then I go through the approach and landing checklist to make sure that no critical item has been skipped for the landing. After the go-around, I initiate a hold. I stabilize the airplane to make sure that I have much less workload as expected. So then I go through the DODAR check. I go through the D, which is diagnose. So the visibility has deteriorated on final approach. We lost visual contact with the ground, so that's why we initiated the go-around. Then we have the O, which is the options. We can either choose to hold over the point and wait for the visibility to improve if we have enough fuel. If we don't have enough fuel anymore, we consider going to the alternate directly. Then we decide, okay, we saw that the visibility is improving. We decided to stay next to the airport, hold for a while, and then initiate a second approach. Then assign, so me and my co-pilot, We will discuss together through the approach, make sure that all briefings are done and completed, and then for the R, we review the decision that has been made in the beginning to make a second approach and to make sure that the visibility really improved compared to the first approach.